So I'm very happy to be here. It's been a while.
Me too. I'm excited. We haven't done this in a while. How are you feeling?
Much better. And I hope that this will be the last of it.
Of the podcast? All right. Well, it was short-lived. But anyways.
Of the illnesses.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I'm getting over something, and then my kids come home with something, and they give it to me. They give it to my wife. My wife gives it to me. I give it to her. She gives it to them. They give it to us. You know, it's...
Have you ever heard Tom Lehrer's song where he's singing about, you know, I got it from Agnes, she got it from Jim, we all agree it must have been Marie that gave it to him? It's like a really clever song. I'll play it for you in the break. But okay. It's really, it made me think of that.
You want to tell the listeners where to go search for that? What's it called? YouTube.
Tom Lehrer. It's been around for about, 60 years? I don't know. It's a very famous piece. It's very sort of, if you like all of the Flight of the Conchords-y, Tim Minchin kind of, playing with the piano and the wordplay and the whatnot. It's funny. So
I do.
Yeah.
So the question that I wanted to ask you for this week's Cold Open is, have you ever, and I don't know if I've ever asked you this, so I truly do not know the answer. Have you ever been so repulsed by a movie that you are watching in the cinema that you have got up and walked out?
Yeah, it was with you, and I got up and walked out with you, so you do know the answer to this.
What? I don't remember.
Do you remember that movie, Shoot 'em Up, I think it was? Or Shoot...
No, we watched it to the end. We didn't get up and walk out.
We watched it to the end?
I think we did, yeah.
Maybe I rewrote that in my head about getting... I was super repulsed by
I hated that movie.
Anyway, I thought that that was one where we'd walked out. Have I ever walked out of a movie? I have a memory of walking out of a movie. But I thought it was with you.
I walked out of a movie that I saw by myself.
What was it?
It wasn't the one that we're going to watch today. I wish it was, because that would have been so perfect, but it wasn't. It was, in fact, Spawn.
Spawn?
Yeah. I went to go and see Spawn, and I gave it a good chance. I was there for at least, half to 3/4 of it. And I just upped and it was the worst thing I'd seen up until that point. And I was a young kid, I was watching a lot of crap.
But like when you got older, did you watch the HBO cartoon that they made?
I didn't. I think that put me off Spawn. I need a
You should watch that. That is a really good adaptation of Spawn. It's brilliant. It's gross. Like, it's really gruesome, but it's really good.
Gruesome's fine. I don't have a problem with gruesome. It was just, I don't know. It was just really bad.
It's a bad film.
It was terrible.
It's a bad movie.
John Leguizamo with his, the skid marks and the farting and all that. I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, I've stopped watching movies at home. Like, Shosh and I were watching Red Notice together. This sort of Netflix movie with Dwayne Johnson and Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot.
And Gal Gadot. And,
we can actually say her name properly.
Yeah. And Ryan Reynolds. And yeah, it's gotten mixed reviews. I haven't actually watched it yet.
Here's the thing. It's quite bad. It's not Shoot 'em Up or Spawn bad. But it's like Shosh fell asleep.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to finish this. Like, it was not something that I was particularly interested in. But there are films that you and I don't agree on when it comes to whether we like them, whether we don't like them, whether we walk out on them, whether we wouldn't walk out on them.
Well, but the thing is that a lot of these movies that we talk about that we may not agree on, there's some kind of nostalgic connection there.
What, as to why I like it and why you don't like it?
No, I'm saying in general that I remember the period that we used to watch it together and when we first watched it. And
I know movies that you like. I came out of the cinema sort of saying, I hated that, and you'll be like, why? What's wrong with you? And then we'll like have a conversation with it, and you'll kind of turn me around on it. I'll go, you know what? You're right. Maybe there's stuff to enjoy.
I remember the first time the opposite happened though, and that was Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, where I liked it a lot.
You loved it, yeah. and I really didn't.
I still really like it.
I've actually kind of turned around on that one a little bit. It's Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the real crime of cinema.
Although his performance at the end there is really good.
So let's get into it.
All right, let's
Intro.
Go. What's our seat number?
Hello and welcome to What's Our Seat Number, the podcast that asks burning questions like, why is a raven like a writing desk? And why did I let Cy convince me to watch this week's film? I'm Jonny Gross, a filmmaker, a lover, not a fighter, and I'm not wearing hockey pads. With me as always is my co-host, a world-famous chocolatier, a former president of Uruguay, a prostitute in the bedroom, and only one of those is true. My brother, the 3D graphic artist and former Royal Corgi poo picker-upper, it's only Simon Gross.
It's pretty funny.
Thank you. And this week we're talking about Van Helsing, but before we do that, I think we should delve into a little bit of movie news.
The corgi poo thing got me a little off guard.
Okay, so this week on movie news, a couple of surprising bits, a couple of not so surprising bits. Andrew Garfield wants to return as Spider-Man.
Not a problem.
Not a problem, also not surprising. Morbius has been delayed again to April 2022.
Couldn't give a fuck, Jones.
I chucked in the Bad Boys for Life Blu-ray a couple of days ago, and that movie came out in January 2020. Let's say the Blu-ray came out in like March, April.
Okay.
And that Blu-ray opens with a Morbius trailer.
Well, it's been, yeah. It has been in the...
It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just not very good? I'm.
I mean, it's not really a character that I'm so... I don't care.
I don't know. I've seen that trailer a million times. Anyway, moving on. Because, in front of every movie we've been to see at the cinema.
Not like the way that you've seen the No Time to Die trailer.
No. Not by choice. Dwayne Johnson says there's no chance for a return to the Fast and Furious franchise. I have some advice for Vin Diesel. Set the next one in a jungle and Dwayne will come running.
See, here's the thing, is that I don't care anymore about the Fast and Furious movies,
Yeah, I used to love them. I've kind of gone off them.
But, yeah, well, I mean, that's what happens when they just keep churning them out. It's like Assassin's Creed and, all the other non-stop Call of Duty, all that lot, they were good. And then, just money grabbing at this point.
Yeah.
You keep going with your movie news.
It's the family memes that get me. Like, I can't take them seriously anymore. No Way Home crosses $1 billion at the global box office.
Not surprising.
I say fuck movie. Yes. And I would also remind people like Martin Scorsese and other Marvel and superhero critics that No Way Home is keeping cinemas open during an ongoing pandemic, as did movies like Jaws, E.T. and Star Wars that allowed for less commercial films to be made. So while I do love those directors, and I think they are geniuses and, masters, I would say don't knock it. Because they probably don't even watch them and don't even know what they are. But these are the movies that are keeping cinema alive and the cinema-going experience.
Maybe you should talk about what you're referring to, because maybe some people don't know that Martin Scorsese said...
Yeah, Martin Scorsese has been very critical of Marvel and talks about him...
He's like, they're not movies.
Yeah, they're not movies, that they're not cinema, and, other directors have spoken up as well. Yeah. I believe Jane Campion was another one. I just think that, you have to make room for, even if you're not into that kind of thing. First of all, I think that No Way Home is a quality piece of entertainment, and it is a piece of entertainment, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. It's the first movie that has crossed the $1 billion mark worldwide since the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Even No Time to Die struggled, and No Time to Die was very successful and very popular, but it struggled. To sort of hit the numbers that they would have hit pre-pandemic. So I think that aside from that, we have to have commercial movies in order to make smaller movies possible. Yeah. And and people like Alan Ladd Jr., who was the head of 20th Century Fox in the mid 70s. Mm-hmm. This is actually the other way around, but it shows you how one film can feed into another. When Richard Donner made The Omen, it made so much money, and it was a tiny little film that it allowed Alan Ladd Jr. to give George Lucas money to make Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And he actually cites that as the movie that paid for Star Wars. Yeah. I think that the movies that are commercial and potentially successful and that can make a lot of money actually allow filmmakers to make smaller movies.
Agree.
So I would say don't knock it. Yeah. Anyway, Avatar 2 is set for December 2022 release. Do you care?
No.
Me neither. But I will say that it's still a reference quality Blu-ray. That was... Movie news.
You know, before we move on to context, I just wanted to say, like, I've seen a lot of harumph around.
Harumph.
Yes, Andrew Garfield. Don't
Brilliant.
just move on. Andrew Garfield and, you know, like Tobey Maguire, and how, you know, fans are calling for a Raimi cut, and, you know, the Snyderverse, you know, people who crawl out from under their rocks and start, you know, making a noise and making, you know, film producers and executives go, if we don't listen to them, then they won't be happy, right? You know, and all that sort of thing. And I'm like,
Ready? Just is Kenneth Williams head of a studio?
I just think that, no, but I do think that well, it gives a shit what I think, but like Andrew,
The people listening to this podcast, obviously.
no, but like I just think that, like,
I do. I give a
thank
shit.
you, Jonathan. I think if they make a movie with Andrew Garfield, great.
I would watch it.
If they made, you know, Spider-Man 4, too little, too late, but great. I think it would be really cool if we saw the characters in the context of where they are now. Like, I think that would be cool.
Yeah,
you know, not like
it
to
might be
continue their movies afterwards,
It
but
might
like,
be cool.
I really hate the fact that there's this decision by committee thing going on. It really drives me nuts.
It's not even decision by committee. It's a decision by
Bullying.
social media.
It's bullying.
It's
is what it
Twitter.
is.
We should dismantle Twitter.
Oh, well,
They've got to
don't
be stopped.
say that, because when we do actually plan to do something like that, they'll know it was us that did it. It could be used against us in a court of law, maybe.
Oh,
Speaking
okay.
of court of law.
Oh, yes. Today, we are going to be talking about the classic 2004, not classic, Van Helsing. Directed by Stephen Sommers and starring Hugh Jackman and Kate Beckinsale and Richard Roxburgh. I have to say, I was a bit worried about doing this one without having watched the movie before tonight,
Right.
because I was worried that I would come back to it, thoroughly enjoy it, and then I would not be able to prosecute this movie as I promised in the previous episode that I would. That we are going
Flashback,
to,
I'm putting it on trial.
we are going to put this movie on trial, and it shall be put away for 25 years to life, or given the death penalty. So, a little bit of context here. I was a 21-year-old whippersnapper, and I went to visit a film school in Los Angeles. It was, I mean, financially it was sort of out of my league at the time, but not long after I went, the economy crashed. And then it was definitely out of my league. Everything doubled. All the prices doubled.
Yeah.
So I went to visit this film school, and during that time, I was like 3 or 4 days alone before the family that I was supposed to be staying with came back from New York. So I did things by myself. I went to Rodeo Drive. I did, I went to there was like a museum of TV and film or something like that. I walked around, went to Universal Studios. During my time at Universal Studios, my plan was to cap off the day with a cinema screening of Van Helsing, which had just come out.
Yeah.
And I was so fucking excited.
Yeah,
I
the
was
trailers
chomping at the
looked
bit. My balls were turgid with anticipation of watching this
with
film. No, seriously, I was a big fan of The Mummy and The Mummy Returns, and I thought that Stephen Sommers tackling the Universal monsters was just going to be fucking epic. And was it?
Yes.
No, well, I was sorely disappointed when I came out, I'll be honest. And ever since, I've tried to watch the film several times since. About 6 months ago, I watched it on Netflix. It has since been removed from Netflix, which is the reason why I have Blu-rays. I don't know, this movie antagonizes me. I couldn't get through it. I tried. I really did. It's just, I always go into it thinking, oh, this is going to be, maybe this time the design, I love the design. I love the characters. I love that, James Whale style opening, which is just fantastic. And then it just all goes downhill from me. I really try. I do. Yeah. So, I mean, that's my context for this movie.
Okay. So I remember you coming back and saying that you hated it, and I was like, what? Because I hadn't seen it yet, and I was really excited about it from the trailers, and I was like, what was this? Is it bad? And I watched it, and I was like, "Oh God, the black and white opening, the design, the reimagining of Van Helsing, the gadgets, it's there's like a sort of world building going on there that I think's really interesting. Is it messy? Yes, but many movies that I like are messy. Like some movies that I like have." They are quite messy and I still like them. Do the stories make sense in all of them? No, right? But there's some really cool stuff going on here and I think it's really enjoyable. The music is awesome and I remember coming out of it and I was like, okay, I get why people, don't like it, but I like it. And I think, actually, there was a little while there where I was, because you didn't like it, I was like, oh yeah, it's shit. And I was like closeted Van Helsing fan, right? And I was like, yeah, it's rubbish. And then there was a little bit later when I was like in animation school and I met a friend who, he was just like, werewolves, man. Werewolves. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And he's like, Dracula fighting werewolves fighting Dracula. Yeah, okay. And he's like, gadgets, man. Werewolves, Dracula. And I was like, you're right, this thing's fucking amazing. And so, we like watched it together. And then, I think we've talked about this before. It's like when you watch a movie with someone in a certain context, it can really light a fire with you. Mm-hmm. And I think I really like this movie, knowing what it is and also knowing, okay, so I don't enjoy certain aspects of it. But, it's really fun. It's a lot of fun.
So this is the thing. I've never really sort of looked at it critically before in this way. I'm going to try and be precise with my note taking while watching it tonight. But yeah, it's always just like left me with a bad taste, and I think it's also the acting and the script and things like that. I don't know. It always disappoints me. Maybe
it's
because
cheesy
of all
AF. It's really cheesy.
Maybe because of all the things that you're saying, and because I do love all of those things so much. And also I've been on a little bit of a kick lately. I watched Monster Squad, which is most of those characters, the same characters. You've got the Wolfman, you've got Dracula, you've got Frankenstein's monster, and they're all like sort of trying to take over the town, and there's these kids that form Monster Squad that are trying to stop them. That's great.
Sounds awesome.
It is. And and I watched the 1979 John Badham Dracula with Frank Langella in it, which is also a lot of fun. I love. Oh, and Dracula Dead and Loving It, of course.
Well, did you hear that? Speaking of Dracula, there's a movie called Renfield.
Yes, with Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage is going to be Dracula. That's going to be amazing. That's going to be brilliant.
Take my fucking money. Just take it.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, oh god, it's going to be so good. Very quotable.
So before we go and watch the movie, we are going to play the Tagline Game. So we have 3 taglines. One of them is the tagline for the movie we are about to watch, Van Helsing. And
the Pentaveret. Because it puts an addictive chemical in his chicken that makes you crave it fortnightly. Smartass.
Heat! Get down! He's going to cry himself to sleep on his huge pillow. I watched that recently too, as well. That's So I Married an Ex-Murderer. Yeah. I read some bad reviews of it, and I'm like, cheer up. Which is probably what people are going to say to me about Van Helsing, to be honest.
You'll have people agreeing with you, and I think you'll have Philippa mostly knocking down your door telling you that you're wrong.
Oh yeah,
she really likes
Philippa likes the movie. Yeah.
This is actually a Philippa requested movie.
Right. I remember. I don't have anything. I think the score is fantastic. I mean, there's we have a friend called Wendy who brings people to Israel. Well, used to when there wasn't a pandemic and people weren't getting sick every 5 minutes. But she brought George S. Clinton, who did the soundtrack for Austin Powers, all 3 Austin Powers movies. Those fantastic John Barry-esque kind of riffs. And she brought Peter Golub, who's also a composer. Like she brought a bunch of people to give like sort of talks and whatnot to film schools, and And she's got a line to Alan Silvestri, and I just thought that it would be really fantastic. They wouldn't do this, but I would love it if they would let me lead that symposium and just interview him on stage. I mean, I would get over all of my stage fright just so that I could sit there and talk to this man. Like, he's just...
I would love it if that was actually something that happened one day.
Yeah, I just think it's incredible. And one of the things that I would ask him is... something that I would want to ask many high-profile composers is, what do you do when the print you are given to compose the score to is of a film that you think is terrible?
Maybe he doesn't think that this movie's terrible.
I'm not talking about necessarily this movie, but he has scored some movies that probably didn't turn out the way that he maybe imagined that they would. And I find that interesting. And John Williams has also scored some movies that are, objectively terrible.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm sure every composer does because they're brought on last.
I think you mean subjectively. It's not objective fact that a movie is bad.
I would say that the general consensus is that the movie is not great. I'm not talking about opinion. I'm not talking about people who would say this is my 6-day movie, this is my guilty pleasure, whatever. I'm just saying that the general consensus is the Rotten Tomatoes score, the IMDb ratings. I don't give a shit.
You're not seeing him right now. I don't know why I said if, but he's like sort of, I don't even know how to describe it. He's being sassy in his chair. He's like his body's gone all wavy.
Yeah. Anyway, the tagline game.
Fuck. Yeah, go on.
Okay, so your first tagline is the legend you know, the adventure you have yet to imagine. That's one. The second tagline is the one name they all fear. And the third tagline is welcome to a new world of gods and monsters. What is it? Come on.
I really don't know. It's the first one or the second one, but it's probably the third one. So...
Don't worry, I'm not going to be giving you electric shocks.
Even though you're sort of playing with the knobs over there, like you are going to be doing it. You also just did the Ghostbusters. Come on. So that fills me with confidence. I think... Hang on, you said the second one is about the only one they all fear, sort of thing?
The one name they all fear.
The one name they all fear, and the first one was...
The legend you know, the adventure you have yet to imagine.
That could be any fucking thing.
And the third one is welcome to a new world of gods and monsters.
I think it's the first one.
Which one's the first one?
The first one you read off, you dinkus.
The legend you know, the adventure you have yet to imagine.
Well, who cares? It's some stupid game anyway.
The correct answer is the one name they all fear. The legend you know, the adventure you have yet to imagine is The Mummy, 1999.
I thought it might also be that.
And Welcome to a New World of Gods and Monsters is The Mummy 2017 with Tom Cruise.
Which in itself is not a fantastic film, subjectively.
You see, I actually quite like that one.
Do you know something? I wanted to give that one a second chance, but I forgot to do it. It's not a classic anecdote, is it?
No, it's not.
Not a classic anecdote.
No.
You can just cut that out. Shall we watch the movie?
Okay, let's go and watch the movie. We'll see you in 2 hours and 11 minutes. Oh my god. Exhausted after that, I'll be honest with you.
That was long.
It was very long.
It was long.
Yeah, that was going to be my very first criticism of the movie.
Yeah,
it's too long.
I agree with that one. I'll give you that one. When you said to me 2 hours and 11 minutes, I was like, oh, freaking fuck.
Yes, what are you doing in 2 hours and 11 minutes? Come on. It's about a guy fighting monsters. You can wrap that up in 90, for God's sake. Anyway. Look, I'll be honest with you. I don't like slagging off movies because they're difficult to make.
Yeah.
And this is definitely not the worst one I've ever seen. It's definitely an achievement in terms of technical and visual effects and in general, like, aesthetic.
Yeah.
It's very beautifully shot and graded and everything. And we watched it in 4K HDR, so that added to the very
Go
colourful.
on, my son.
Very colourful, very look at that contrast. Very nice. But yeah, I mean that was you asked me at some point during the movie, are you not enjoying any of this? And I said, well, I am enjoying certain parts of it, and I always have. But
No, because you were whinging all the way through.
no, but it's just like it's a slog. It's really long and it's needlessly convoluted, and the script is, let's be honest, not great.
No.
All of the cast are doing these really cheesy, dreadful Eastern European accents.
That's what you expect from it, though.
Yeah, but
It's no worse than
no, but
any of the other Dracula movies that have ever been.
but it depends if the words that they are saying in the cheesy Eastern European accent are well written or not, and I don't know. Well, we'll save that for opening remarks, I think.
All right, go on.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
No, you just want to eat your cake, don't you?
You gave it to me. You said, eat it. Here, I'm eating it. What do you want from me? Just do your fucking thing.
Well, I've got a surprise for you. Cookie, come on in. Right, Bruce Bogtrotter, you're going to eat this entire chocolate cake. So my wife made a chocolate coffee cake. Easy on the coffee, heavy on the chocolate. I mean, she said
Very
that it's
sweet.
Yeah, she said that it's too sweet and too rich for her. So she gave some of it to me to, so that we can get hopped up on sugar while we're doing this podcast.
I don't think I'm going to eat this entire piece. It's very sweet.
Right.
Off you go.
Okay, so I don't know. I'm in two minds of whether or not I really want to,
Put this on trial.
put this movie behind bars, because
Why that? Because you enjoyed it a bit.
it is fun, and this is what I was worried about, because soda
Didn't as much as I wanted it to.
Well, I'll add the tss in post.
If it's not real, I'm not interested.
But I just want to go over a little bit of context here in terms of where this movie comes in the filmography of director and writer Stephen Sommers.
Okay.
So there's the 1994 Jungle Book. Do you remember that one?
Shit, I can't believe that I'm a man, another man, and a man thing at the end. No, wasn't that with Carrie Elwes?
I don't. Maybe I don't remember. I don't remember very well. But anyway, I remember seeing it. I remember seeing it when we were on holiday in Jersey. And
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
At least, and at the end,
I
he's
don't-
like, no, he's.
I haven't seen it since.
He doesn't see me as a
I don't
man.
think
he
it's even
sees me
gotten
as
a DVD or Blu-ray release. I mean, I haven't seen it around anywhere.
Didn't it have John Cleese in it and all?
Did it?
Am I thinking of something else?
Maybe.
I
don't
think
know.
I am. Fuck it.
I don't know.
Go on.
But anyway, I remember enjoying it. Haven't seen it for many years. And I remember that our father hated it because it didn't follow the book. And
Since when has he ever cared about that sort of thing?
he always cares about that kind of thing. Like, I remember showing him the Count of Monte Cristo, the one with Guy Pearce and and Jim Caviezel. And he was, and they did change a lot and move things around. Yes, but it's also like, it's, what is it, a 2-hour movie or something like that, and they condensed that massive tome into a couple of hours. Of course, they had to change some things. But
That's my cry.
he said at the end of it, "Oh, I didn't like that." I'm like, why? I just didn't follow the book. So, but then again, you've got the Jungle Book with Sabu. You ever seen that one from the 30s or the 40s?
This is my tooth. That one?
This is my tooth.
I feel like I'm saying stuff that are real and that you're just not. He has like a knife or something that's made out of a tooth of some kind of animal.
Just to clarify, the last time I saw this version of the Jungle Book was on TV in England.
Yeah, me too.
Right.
I remember.
I don't remember. This is my tooth.
You know what? Just get on with it, all right?
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, basically they couldn't get the animals to talk in that one, so that doesn't follow the book either. But he loves that version. Okay, moving on. Then Deep Rising.
Yeah.
Not bad.
It's all right.
Not great, but not bad. But Deep Rising, financially speaking, and in terms of his rep in Hollywood, it led to The Mummy, right?
Yeah.
Which is a fun movie, but it's got a glaring problem that would become apparent in his subsequent movies, which is excess. That he had too many toys to play with, too large a budget to play with, and while The Mummy it had some restrictions on it, and it gets by on nostalgia. And in general, it gets by on a lot of charm, and it has a lot of love for what it emulates. Stephen Sommers is a big fan of Indiana Jones and the 32 Mummy, and he was able to take those two elements and mash them together where it actually worked. But you've still got the over-reliance on CGI, which was criticized even at the time. And you see Summers in the documentaries on the DVD saying how cool it was to be able to do this and do that, and he was very, very excited by all the tools he had at his disposal. And then by the time The Mummy Returns comes around, you've got charm and love still present. You've got a great score from Alan Silvestri replacing Jerry Goldsmith, and the folly of bigger and better looms large. Namely in the biting more off than he could chew with the Scorpion King effect and the awful wall of water effect. Mm-hmm. It seemed like they were sort of trying to pack too much into one movie, which leads me to Van Helsing. Mm-hmm. CGI is only a small problem compared with Summers' need to get his sole screenwriter credit. The tongue-in-cheek tone works some of the time in his movies. But in Van Helsing, it desperately needed a polish by somebody else, anyone else. Mm-hmm. In terms of the CGI, it only got worse the more money he was given. There's a lot of times that you and I were watching the movie and I'm going, oh, that's a bit wonky. And there are a lot of wonky effects in the movie. There are a lot of great effects in the movie, which is exactly the same as what happened with The Mummy Returns. It's just too much.
We'll talk too about much.
Too much going on. I think too much packing into it, which is also the same thing that we were talking about when we were talking about the runtime just now. Is that it didn't need to be 2 hours and 11 minutes long.
Yeah.
The thing that really irks me about this movie is the promise of the premise. Mm-hmm. And the cracking opening prologue, which is just brilliant. Yeah. Every time I watch that, it's just. The Dutch angles, the black and white. He manages to ape the style of James Whale so well, and while sort of weaving in the modernized effects and CGI within that. And if he would have done the entire movie like
black
that,
and white, we've said this before.
Yeah, it would have been amazing, and it would have also been a little bit more easy to swallow the sort of the cheese and the over the top acting and the accents and whatever if it was over stylized like that from the get go. And I also said to you during the movie that it would have been great if they could have managed to have balanced the tone in the same way that a movie like Sleepy Hollow did. Mm-hmm. That it was more sort of geared towards horror and less towards adventure, because he is using the trappings of the sort of Indiana Jones style that he used for The Mummy and transplanting it to this where it doesn't quite work.
Okay.
I also said to you the same thing in regards to the score. The score is fantastic and I love it, and you can listen to it on its own and it's like really rousing and exciting, etc., etc. But you've got these like horror moments that then are followed by these heroic adventure moments in the score that don't quite match up. So, I enjoyed it on some level. I did get, a little bit restless about halfway through.
I noticed.
And around about the masquerade ball, no, before that, the wagon chase is when I turned to you and I said, this is where I got to last time. Mm-hmm. And I think getting past that point is probably the first time I've done that since maybe 2006. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Which would account for buying it on DVD and watching it a few times and not touching it again.
Okay.
Those are my thoughts in a general sense. Obviously, we'll get into it a little bit more. But I think that possibly due to potential and due to the look and due to the casting, it really should have been a fuck of a lot better. And maybe the problem is Stephen Sommers. And if another director like, say, Tim Burton would have come in and made this movie, it would have been maybe a lot better. So those are my opening remarks. Over to you, Councillor.
Well, Jonathan, I put to you that Van Helsing gets altogether a hard time. See, we live in a world with multiverses and multiple adaptations and legacy sequels. And is it so unpalatable that in another universe, Abraham Van Helsing is not an older gentleman who hunts down vampires? Instead, he's a James Bond gadget-wielding agent for the Vatican named Gabriel, who may or may not be related to a certain archangel. I don't think it's so crazy. And I really think it's quite awesome, and I'll grant you that the family drama's a bit much, and that Frankenstein's monster puts a bit much sort of in its place. And there's so much cheese, and there's so much, like you said, untapped potential in the movie. But other than that, there's a lot to love about this movie, and the portrayal of Dracula, and you sort of scoffed and giggled a couple of times at his his overacting. But I was like, I think that's really clever that he made this decision to portray Dracula like that, and Can
I just interject here a second?
I didn't interject when you were talking.
Yeah, you did.
All right, fine. You got me there. That was a lie. Made it up, shouldn't have.
Right. I giggled a couple of times at his overacting because I get a kick out of that performance.
Yeah.
I scoffed and giggled at the overacting of the brides.
So,
Interjection finished.
I like Dracula. I like the brides. I like Igor. The werewolves, they rip their bloody skin off, man. It's awesome. Like, that's a great werewolf transformation, right? There's a lot of stylistic choices in the movie that make it very fun to watch. And, the music, the gadgets, Mr. Hyde is a great, opening for Van Helsing. I like it. And I think that there are some really cool set pieces. I like the wagon chase. It's really cool. And apart from some real head-scratcher plot points, I like the world building that they're proposing. I think that there's some things that maybe didn't have to be in there. The whole thing with, the Dracula and his brides and the children and all of that. I think that the scheme could have, been anything else and it would have been just as interesting, or it would have been more interesting. I think that I actually like the fact that even though I've said that I've cited the family drama as an issue, I actually like the idea of a family who are destined to take down Dracula, but they're the last of the line of, I think that's cool. There's some epicosity to that. And it takes the sort of universal monsters and slips them into a sort of high fantasy setting, which is really cool. And it makes me wish that, God forbid I say something like this in your presence, but that we might have had a sequel to see where the world went and where, the incarnation of at least, Gabriel Van Helsing could have gone. I think that's pretty cool. I think that would have been really cool. And that, you said to me during the movie that, if they would have shortened it and sort of tightened it up a little bit, it would have been a much better movie. I agree with that. I think if they would have cut it down, I think if you were to take a knife to it, if you were to cut the movie down in Premiere or something, you'd probably find you'd make a much better movie just because there's so much fat in there. So right. That's the end of my sort of opening statement. I do think that I agree with a lot of the things that you're saying. I think that there's a lot of problems with the movie and that, I understand why a lot of people don't like it. But even this time, I'm really, really tired. I didn't have energy to watch the movie, but I still really enjoyed it because it's a bit of fun.
So this is why this is a flawed choice for us to take down and prosecute, is because it's not an easy one. It's not like the Avengers 1998 that is just irredeemable. And I think that this movie is not on that low rung. It's not.
I don't think it's a great movie. I think that it's a lot better than people think it is. I think that
I tell you what it is. There are pacing issues. For example, the first half hour, there's an action scene every 5 minutes roughly, and when they get to Transylvania and he has Van Helsing has a conversation with Anna, played by Kate Beckinsale. The conversation lasts literally 30 seconds before the music kicks in again, and then we have another action scene, and then there's a little bit of quiet, and they're waiting for the sun to go behind a cloud. Action scene, action scene, action scene, and it's just like, it's a little bit frenetic, it's a little bit hyperactive, and the movie carries on like that, and it's kind of exhausting. But as I said, like, aesthetically, it's gorgeous, and especially I don't know if it maybe because we watched it in 4K HDR, and I was constantly noticing the colors and the contrast and the shadow detail and the highlight detail. But you know, I enjoyed it visually this time round a lot more than I have before. So I mean, it does have that going for it, and obviously all of the things that you say, the gadgets and the James Bond type, type setup. The fact that he, the first thing after the, he's in the middle of a mission when we see him first time, and he's chasing Mr. Hyde, and then he goes and he gets his orders from the Cardinal, who's M, and then he goes straight into a Q scene with Carl, who's got hair like Jim from The Office, and then he, he gets his gadgets, and then they go off on their, on their adventure kind of thing. And to me, as a Bond fan, that should be, perfect, especially since I'm also a Universal Monster fan. But there are, it's the script, and it's the editing, it's the directing.
That scene, actually, there's a couple of things there that really bugged me about the Vatican scene. Is that it's a little bit exposition heavy. Like they're telling Van Helsing things. This bugs me about movies sometimes, is that they will tell the main character things about the organization that the main character is a part of, when it seems like perhaps that spiel would have been given to them when they started at the organization. So that kind of thing annoys me. There's got to be a way to get information across in a way that's... sorry, why am I saying that like that? There's got to be a way. There is a way. There are many ways to get exposition across in a way that doesn't sound like that. Although the scene that comes before it with Mr. Hyde is... I think it's really cool. I remember you talking to me about it like years ago and saying you really don't like it.
I still don't like it.
It's... I don't know. Like, it's really cool. I think that technically there's a lot of really cool stuff going on there, like VFX-wise, like with jiggling muscles and sweat and, liquid coming out of his mouth, and like, that's really cool.
But as a whole, even for 2004, it still looks to me cartoony.
A lot of the effects in the movie look cartoony.
Right.
It's got a very specific visual style. I think that there's...
No, it's got a very specific visual style that, there are certain effects that actually work within the world, and there are certain effects that just look like they don't belong there. In the same way that that we were talking about Matrix Reload and Revolutions, and the Burly Brawl with all the Smiths, and how all of the CG stuntmen look really cartoony and dreadful, and that's how I feel about Mr. Hyde, because Mr. Hyde is supposed to be a photorealistic human.
Mr. Hyde looks, first of all, no on both counts. Mr. Hyde looks much better than the cartoony Smiths do in that fight scene. Why?
Because I do.
Okay. No, like I think that the Smiths. I mean, this is about texture work for me.
We're also talking about like more or less the same time as well.
Yeah, so I'm saying the Smiths in Matrix 2 have a very textureless feel to them. Their skin doesn't react the way that it should react to light. It doesn't look normal. Whereas Mr. Hyde is a sort of... It looks cartoony, I'll agree with that, but there's a lot of stuff going on there that's very technically impressive, that give it texture and give it life. As I said, like the jiggle and the the pour work and the lighting on it, the way that light passes through it. Like, there's some really cool stuff.
I'm not debating that. It's more about like it's about movement, and it's the fact that the character has not been designed as a monster specifically. The character is a large, exaggerated human.
He moves like a gorilla, though. Like, he is very monster-like in his movement.
Yeah, but like I feel like most, if not all of that, could have been done with prosthetics, and would have
just had Robbie Coltrane like on set.
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. I
agree with that, because I think that everything could be done with prosthetics.
Right, but I'm saying that, okay, if you look at the if you look at the Frankenstein monster, for example,
that could have been done with CGI instead of with the prosthetics.
No, but that was done with prosthetics, and it looks amazing.
I know. Well, I don't think it looks amazing.
I think it looks good. It looks good. All right. In terms of like compared to the two of those things, maybe they should have been switched even.
Yeah.
To have Mr. Hyde be played by a human in prosthetics, and to
That's
have
what
the
That's what I just said.
That's what you just said.
Yeah.
Am I not listening to you?
No, you're not.
Am I? Where am I?
I don't know. Hello, welcome to What's Our Seat Number.
Yeah, let's start again. Hi, this is What's Our Seat Number, the show where we don't listen to each other.
Again. I'm tired,
Jonathan. Anyway, but so that was my thing. I don't love the Mr. Hyde bit, and I feel like if you do have an actor like Robbie Coltrane,
have him on set,
maybe have him on set.
Yeah. But I really dig the Q scene in the Vatican, which I thought was really cool. I thought it was really cool that already off the bat they've sort of established that he's like they're not even hiding the fact that he's just James Bond in the Vatican.
Right. So
really cool
my
gadgets.
issue with that is that it was coming at a time when there were lots of those kinds of movies that were following the James Bond model, and they had those Q scenes in them, and they were starting to get on my nerves. For example, Triple X.
Yeah.
They're also like, I can't think off the top of my head, but I remember.
Triple X though, you've got a movie that is a spy movie, right? But this doesn't like it. To me, it's different because this is not where you would expect. This setting is not where you would expect.
Right, but I identified it immediately when it came on screen. I'm like, oh, they're doing this again, and I just seen it over and over again. And also, like in Teen Agent, If Looks Could Kill. I mean, obviously that came 10 years earlier, 12 years earlier, but it still stands. Like you've got that.
I love Teen Agent.
It is a great movie, but I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's like it's one of those.
A lot of fun.
It's one of those guilty pleasures that I don't feel guilty about. But yeah, it unashamedly follows that formula.
You are the French teacher.
It's fun. But like, yeah, I just
we like to have fun on this podcast.
Yes,
we like to have fun.
Indeed. Yeah. So as I was saying, anyway, I'm just saying that I get a little bit tired of those Q scenes, and
but
when
watching
they
it tonight, did it do the same thing to you, or like?
Yeah, it was just like, oh god. Okay. I mean, they kind of reintroduced it in Skyfall as well, and more in Spectre actually, because Skyfall they just sort of meet and he gives him a gun and a radio. But like in Spectre they reintroduced it, and I'm like, I don't really need that. I've kind of gotten over the Q scene. Desmond Llewellyn did it for however many years, and it's we get it.
Q. Does that make him R?
Ah, yes, the legendary 007 wit, or at least half of it.
I thought that
that was my John Cleese impression.
That's very good. The werewolf. By the way, John Cleese was in the Jungle Book that you mentioned, and
great,
also Carrie
great,
Elwes
very good.
and Sam Neill. And that is, by the way, from glancing at the front cover on Google while you were doing your opening statements, the movie where at the end...
While not listening to me, just as I was not listening to you.
Yes,
Indeed.
But I admit it. No, I was listening. But that is the movie where he goes, "She can't think I'm a man. He doesn't think of me as a man. He thinks of me as an animal." I don't remember what he says exactly, but that's the ending of the movie.
Good morning, darling. I hope I wasn't too much of an animal.
Anyway.
Okay, hold on. Let me just take note. Hide all CGI. Another Q scene like Triple X. Right.
The werewolf trapping at the beginning and fight is actually really quite cool.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of like how they sort of set that up. But what I didn't like is that then he drops his gun and he's going to everybody, "Find my gun! Find my gun!" And it's like, why did they not all come equipped with silver bullets to hunt down a werewolf if they know that they need silver bullets?
Yeah, just take the one gun with the silver bullets.
Why is he the only one who can kill it? Why didn't they all come and shoot it with silver bullets? Wouldn't we have just saved ourselves a lot of Cirrus?
Cirrus?
Yeah.
But again, this is what I'm talking about, the script. Like, he sees... What is it he's looking at? There's a...
Cirrus means trouble.
Yes. There's an insignia. On the part of the scroll, that Carl the Q gives him. Carl the Q. I'm going to call him Carl the Q from now on. What?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to
And
remember
then-
if it's Carl the Q or the M who gives it to him.
Oh, I can't remember.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway, it's Carl the Q because and then Van Helsing lifts up his hand and you see that his ring has the same insignia on it. Why in the hell does Carl the Q then have to say, yes, it matches your ring? No, it's not. It's the Cardinal. Yes, it matches your ring because he's
found him.
We found him. We found him.
It's him, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, it's those kinds of issues in the script. It's the same thing as I'm going to mention No Time to Die again. Oh. It's the same thing in No Time to Die when the nanobolics starts coming down from the nanobolics starts raining down on the Spectre agents, right?
Yeah.
And then Obrachev, the scientist, has to stand on the side and go, "All the Spectre are dying." It's like,
yes, thank you. We can see that.
Thank you very much. It's just like, Captain, state the obvious. Like, fuck off, please. But yeah, it's that kind of thing. I can't stand that. That thing of somebody looking up at an erupting volcano and somebody going, "Oh my God, it's erupting! Run!" I can see that it's erupting.
There's a lot of that in this movie.
There's a lot of that in this movie. It's like there are certain lines that this is how I feel about when I'm editing something.
Yes.
When I'm editing something, somebody's written like a script.
Yeah.
So I'll start cutting lines like that.
Yeah.
And when I'm editing something that I've shot, directed, whatever, I start cutting those lines out, and then the client goes to me, "Why do you cut these lines?" I don't know why I'm doing it.
Why are they from Transylvania?
Because everybody in this movie is from Transylvania. I'm trying to make
why are they
it's
from
thematic.
Transylvania?
It's thematic.
Sure, I'll go with it.
Yeah. Why are you cutting these lines? And I'll be like,
"What are you doing cutting holes in my web?"
I'm sorry, Senor Lopez. We were just waiting for Sorrow.
Remember when we said that we wanted to do a podcast and we said, we need to find a way to make it structured. We need to find a way to make it interesting to listen to. This is what we were talking about.
What?
This.
No, because originally we were going to do watch-alongs. That was going to be the entire thing.
Yeah.
We're going to do watch-alongs. Maybe one day we will do a watch-along, but it's definitely a weird way to watch a movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. So I found that there were a lot of those kinds of superfluous lines that could have just been cut, and I don't understand why people don't notice them. They drive me crazy.
I think they drive. I often find that when I've heard about you talking about with your clients, how you will cut those lines. And
have you ever heard me actually on the phone with a client?
No, but I've heard you talk to me about it,
right?
Because I listen to you when you talk to me,
right? Yes.
Yeah. And
sorry. What did you say? I drifted.
See, I would have cut that line. It's a bit obvious, isn't it?
Well, all right.
Sorry, I wasn't listening to you. So. I often hear you sort of talk about how you'll cut those lines and then they'll say, "Oh, how will people understand? I don't understand." It's like, because people aren't fucking stupid.
Oh, I can't stand that. I always I have that kind of, the audience isn't going to get it. Do you think your audience are idiots? I don't. I hate that.
And that's the thing, is that a lot of this film is sort of assuming that you need everything spoon-fed, with a crowbar, right. Get that in there.
And I'm fairly certain that Stephen Sommers was edited for The Mummy and The Mummy Returns. Maybe he had a lot of studio interference. Maybe they brought in somebody to do an uncredited rewrite or something like that. By the time they got to Van Helsing, he was hot shit, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got final cut.
Maybe he pulled the dad card.
Maybe
on the studio.
Yeah. So the Stephen Sommers credit comes up. It says written and directed by Stephen Sommers, and I said no shit. And then it comes up underneath, in memory of my dad, and I'm like, well, now I feel like an arsehole, don't I?
I really love that slow fade on. You just made fun of me. Fairies died somewhere because of you.
Clap your hands, Peter. So yeah. Also, speaking of Eastern European accents, everybody's doing Eastern European accents.
Yeah.
What is Van Helsing supposed to be?
American.
No, but he's American, but kind of
American with a sort of Britishness.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very odd. I'll give it to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll take it.
No, I'm agreeing with you on a lot of stuff. It's just that there's a lot of things I like about it.
That's fine. You're allowed.
Oh, thank you.
Kate Beckinsale.
Yeah.
The pout.
Yes. So the whole way through the film, you kept on looking over at me and pouting. She doesn't do it as much as you were doing it on the couch, I have to say.
I was only doing it when she was doing it, so it must have been.
She wasn't doing it when you were doing it the
She
whole
was
time.
doing it when I was doing it.
For fuck's sake, Johnny. I think you're being a little bit... I don't know. Being a bit... nitpicky.
What, you think I'm trying to find things
No,
to hate about it?
I think you don't need to find things to hate about it. I think there are things to hate about it. I think you're making stuff up.
I'm not making stuff up.
She
It's
only
there.
pouted like twice.
She pouted enough.
Wait, you didn't like... You said you didn't like Underworld. Underworld is really good. Really? Celine.
Have you watched them recently?
Yeah. A friend of mine and I really like them, and we watched them.
You watched all of them?
No,
There are
I
like
only
25 of them
I
now.
only like the first one. I only like the first one.
Okay, so look, the first one is okay. And I
Vampires
remember
versus werewolves or something
Yeah,
like with
yeah,
guns and
but, like,
Kate Beckinsale in
but
leather.
there were
Problem?
a spate of movies
Yeah.
that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, probably early 2000s that just basically mashed up Blade and The Matrix. And so you've got all of this like S&M kind of costuming with the sunglasses and the twin guns and whatever. And I never thought, like, I had Wonderworld. I had Underworld. Wonderworld is a whole different movie. I had Underworld on DVD. I had the second one on DVD as well. And I remember liking them, but not loving them. Also, it was Kate Beckinsale, so...
Right.
Yeah.
I like the first one. I like Bill Nye. I like anything that Bill Nye's in, really.
Bill Nye is a powerhouse, as is Michael Sheen.
Yeah.
But I digress. So yeah, I do like the transformation effects. I think they're very cool. I like the idea of the ripping the skin off and everything like that. And as I said, like aesthetically, it's really well done.
But
And the lightning,
also the reverse effect is that
Yeah.
they rip off the fur and also they shed it.
right,
And the human is underneath. That's so cool.
right.
It's a really and also it is given across like it's gotten across in a really visually interesting way. It's
Also
like,
that it's painful and you can see
it
their skin's
looks
really red and
painful,
like
yeah.
sunburnt kind of thing afterwards.
It looks great.
Yeah. And the other thing is that the old school lightning effects, again, I'm not sure if this was 4K HDR that was giving me the feels here, but they were really well done.
Sorry, that was me.
What? Oh, get off. But yeah, no, they were really, I like I don't know, I like old school lighting effects. I like that shit.
Yeah, man.
Maybe it's because I'm an
No,
old
I like
dude.
it.
But anyway, that stuff looks really cool, and I think those are the best effects in the movie, to be honest. And obviously, you're going to say, that there are other things that you like more because you're a little bit more into the sort of the intricacies of CGI and modeling, and et cetera,
Listen,
et cetera.
there's a lot of stuff in the movie that I don't like visual effects wise. But I think that the werewolf transformations are probably my favorite effects.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the werewolf effect at the end is shoddy, it really sucks.
That he suddenly just starts morphing
Yeah.
back and forth as
Yeah.
opposed to ripping his
No, but also the hair it looks too shiny. There's like some weird animation stuff going on there. It looks like that, but it was a little bit rushed. But it's really interesting because the werewolf scene at the beginning is really cool, and the werewolf scene also in the manor when he's
right,
is great because the lighting there is really tricky, I think, to get right, and they did.
So I think this is a result of, as I was saying, like, I mean, we're talking about 2004, 2003 probably when they made this, that like they had their limitations, and when Spielberg made Jurassic Park, they were breaking new ground, but they also used practical effects. They didn't try and do everything in CG, and I felt like Summers didn't. Both times in The Mummy Returns and in this, he didn't know what his limitations were, and he tried to do too much. So there are some effects that fall by the wayside and that look terrible.
Yeah.
Which is the Scorpion King, the Wall of Water, and the fact is that they ran out of money and they ran out of time.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe editing yourself a little bit might might have helped.
I think the throwing everything at it.
But the kitchen sink, yeah,
is like not the best approach, especially in a movie where it's so packed with characters. Like, you know, they have so many villains and so many sort of things going on, and
Right.
you know, supposed plot threads, things like, you know, they even throw that line away at the end. It's like, how does it feel to be the left hand of God? But there is no real consequence to that. It's like a mention.
No, yeah.
It's a mention
He
of the
didn't need
idea
to be
that he's a reincarnation of, or he is the Archangel Gabriel who's lost his memory. Like, if they would have done that, if they would have gone there, that would have been cool. But like, there's some stuff that really falls by the wayside. So yes, it's very bloated, and there's a lot of like stuff. But
Again,
you know.
but anyway, I just want to like continue, like, because I'm kind of heaping praise here a little bit on the visuals. As with the Mummy and the Mummy Returns, the sets are gorgeous.
Yeah, they're great.
And they're practical sets.
Yeah.
They're physical sets. And there's so much detail in there. And just, so, like... But this, to me, is the difference between something like this movie and the Avengers. Even though the movie itself, the plot, the script, the acting, you know, a lot of it, you know, some of the CGI is like, you know, is not great, and you know, and it really does like lag quite a bit. The visuals still keep you like sort of glued to the screen. And the design is brilliant, which is another reason why this movie is you know, a crime, because the potential, not just the potential of the concept, but the potential of what they actually designed and what they actually put up there on the screen, and the amount of money that they had, with a very shoddy script.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that you're making a lot of my arguments for me, and I was going to lean very heavily on visuals and visual style and world building. I think the world building there is great, and that there's a lot of you know, in the environments there's a lot of detailing and weathering as well. Like, it looks old. A lot of it looks very, very old, and it's you know, I think that that's something that we don't really take into consideration. You know, like how things, props and like architectural things like bookcases and whatnot, and chairs, tables, like how they look weathered and how they look, you know, like they've been around for a while. There's attention to detail there that, like, you know, we don't give movies enough credit for, and I think that I noticed that a lot in this movie as well. Also, that little town that where it seems to be the only town there for some reason.
I'll save that for Trivia Corner, but there's something about that.
Okay, but like they managed to make it look like the town sort of like been beset upon by all these different animals, and, you know, like they've had enough. They've got one cow, you know.
Poor cow.
Poor cow.
Yeah.
Barely makes it out of that fight scene.
Yeah.
Anyway. We can do Trivia Corner if you want. I'm interested. You've now piqued my interest about that.
But I will in a second. But a couple of other things. The Masquerade Ball seems aesthetically out of place to me.
It's a completely pointless scene. It's only
a completely
so that
pointless
they can
scene.
use that gadget.
Like, visually, it doesn't work for me with the rest of the movie. It suddenly starts to feel like, you know, like Labyrinth in a way.
Right.
I don't know. I just didn't think it. And also, you got the Flying Graysons up there, which I just didn't understand why they were there. You know, sort of swinging around on the seat like a trapeze artist.
They were there so that Van Helsing could swing in.
Deus ex machina. Yeah, indeed. So yeah, I think that, you know, if they were going to cut something, that should have been the first thing to go. Shula Hensley as the creature.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a little bit of digging on this guy. He's a Broadway actor, and he sure sings his way through this part.
Yes.
That whole thing of the...
Yeah. I've never said to you, in a million years, I've never said... Well, not in a million years, but in the time that this movie has been out,
Yes.
I've never said to you that is something I like about the movie.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that you did say that it was something that you liked about the movie. But like, I spent a lot of time watching the second half of the movie going, oh God, I wish the creature would just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Just won't stop talking. I mean...
I want to live.
I want you to die or shut up. But yeah.
Someone's creaturist, okay?
Yeah, creaturist.
I said to you
Okay, left-handed god. Why does he have to be immortal? Kevin J. O'Connor as Igor. I said this to you. I said this to you during the movie. I said this to you during the movie. A lot of the characters from the Mummy movies are just transplanted into this movie without very much tinkering. I feel like Van Helsing himself is kind of budget Rick O'Connell.
Yeah.
And the relationship they're trying to build between Anna and Van Helsing is not particularly strong, but
necessary.
They were trying to do the same thing they did with Rick and Evelyn, and I felt the same way with Kevin J. O'Connor as Igor, that he's playing the same Benny role that he played in The Mummy, and I just feel like they basically took the bare bones of those movies and said, hey, that worked with this, why can't it work with this? And it's just so obvious that it kind of pisses me off. But it doesn't anger. The movie doesn't anger me enough for me to be really scathing about it. It's just like, I just come out of it every time thinking it's meh. If I make it through to the end. And also the other thing that I noticed this time round, what is it with Stephen Sommers and elongated jaws?
Yeah. You said that, didn't you?
I did indeed.
I don't know. Some people have a visual. With some people, it's pigeons flying off into the.
That's John Glenn.
I know.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
John Woo.
John Woo. Oh, well, okay. So John Woo does the doves. Yeah. So John Glenn does
Sorry, I had pigeons on the brain.
John Glenn in his 5 Bond movies that he directed always has somebody getting startled by a pigeon at some point during the movie, and
maybe he shares my fear.
And in The Living Daylights, I think it's one of the monkeys on the Rock of Gibraltar, like, startles Bond.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, there is that. But everybody's got their director's trademark. The elongated jaws. I don't know.
I said to you I think it was at the end, that the best portrayal of Frankenstein's monster was from Penny Dreadful.
Yeah.
From Penny Dreadful.
Yeah, I think a lot of the best portrayals of those, literary characters come from Penny Dreadful. Yeah. Like it's a very dark, and kind of grotty as well, but very well done show.
It's incredible. And
I love Ava Green, and I also am scared of her.
Because of that show.
Yeah.
I think that the monster's portrayal and his relationship with Frankenstein is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And the way he sort of threatens him, he's like, father. Brilliant.
Yeah, but just wait till you see Monster Squad, and then you might change your opinion on that, mate.
Why is that?
Frankenstein's monster.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it from anything else.
Oh, do you want to go to Trivia Corner? Let's go to Trivia Corner. The film was intended to start a series of Van Helsing adventure movies.
Oh, there we go.
However, the reviews were bad. Box office returns were far below expectations. So all plans for a sequel were dropped within several days of the film's opening.
That sucks.
Oh well. Stephen Sommers claimed in an interview he changed the main character's name from Abraham Van Helsing to Gabriel Van Helsing, as he did not think he could have a lead character named Abraham. The Irishman who wrote Dracula, Bram Stoker, named the character after himself, Bram being a shortening of Abraham. Not sure why he couldn't name a character Abraham.
What's his problem? I thought it was like an alternate version, so he gave him a different... Because it was supposed to be a nod to the...
Look, this is
Archangel.
IMDb trivia, so it's got to be true, okay? A spin-off television series was pitched to NBC.
Okay.
It was supposed to have been called Transylvania. It was to have featured a Wild West sheriff taken to Europe to battle monsters, with occasional guest appearances by Hugh Jackman as Gabriel Van Helsing. Okay. The series idea was stillborn, partly because makeup effects and location shooting in Romania would have been too expensive, and partly because the film's opening weekend box office was far below expectations, which also doomed a proposed sequel to the film, as I said before. So that was what I wanted to say, was that they built the set for the Transylvanian town, and they were going to reuse that for the TV series. That was the idea.
Cool.
Hugh Jackman had hair extensions added for filming.
Really?
Yeah. That changed my life, that piece of information there.
Thank you for adding that in.
Well, thank you. Despite popular online rumor... Despite... Yeah, now that's going to be left in there. Fantastic. Despite popular online rumors stating this was originally planned as a direct sequel to Dracula 1992 with Anthony Hopkins reprising his role, this is not the case. Stephen Sommers thought up the concept for the film while vacationing after he had completed The Mummy Returns. Not surprised.
Vacationing on his massive piles of money.
Exactly. And crying himself to sleep on his huge pillow. In 2009...
I hate the Colonel with his wee beady eyes.
How can you hate the Colonel?
Because he puts an addictive chemical in his chicken that makes you crave it for nightly smartass.
Okay. In 2009, a Van Helsing reimagining was announced by Universal, with Guillermo del Toro directing and Tom Cruise starring, but it failed to materialize. So that's interesting because obviously, as we know, Tom Cruise starred in The Mummy in 2017. And also, like, an interesting connection here is that they wanted to start a Universal universe, a dark universe. Van Helsing would have been a perfectly good jumping off point if the movie had actually done the numbers. But also, it's not unprecedented that, a lot of people criticize the Tom Cruise movie for him becoming a monster at the end of it. But Van Helsing goes the same way in this movie. He also becomes a werewolf.
He doesn't end the movie as a
monster. He doesn't end the movie as a monster, but he kind of, kills Kate Beckinsale while in Monster Guys.
Got a very somber ending.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't... That's something I'll say for it, like, that I didn't mention before, is that it's
by the way, spoilers.
It's, it doesn't go the way of the normal sort of, Hollywood blockbuster, "Ooh, let's kiss at the end, let us kiss with tongues," it's a little bit of Eddie Izzard for you there. Yeah, but it's sort of very somber.
Allow me to laugh like Jimmy Carr now.
Lovely.
There you
go. Sorry, go on. Continue with your trivia.
So that would have been interesting though. I mean, not necessarily with Tom Cruise in the lead, but Guillermo del Toro doing something called Van Helsing would have been fucking
I'll watch
fantastic.
Anything Guillermo del Toro makes.
Anything. I want to see Nightmare Alley.
Yeah, me too.
Throughout the movie, it is implied that Van Helsing is the Archangel Gabriel. He mentions fighting the Romans at Masada, to which Carl responds, "That was in 73 AD," referring to the siege of Masada in the First Jewish-Roman War. Later, Dracula gives his first name as Gabriel and refers to him as the left hand of God. Gabriel is considered God's messenger and was the angel to tell Zechariah and the Virgin Mary of John the Baptist and Jesus' births, respectively. All right, then. Oh, that's it. That's all I got. That's the end of Trivia Corner.
Trivia Corner.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, I'm done. Drop page. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Up the VFX Attic.
We're going to VFX Attic. Very exciting.
Join me in the VFX Attic. Where else can you see VFX in an attic other than VFX Attic?
So the VFX supervisor was Ben Snow.
Which I said, that's good because there's snow in it. Actually, you know what happened? Sorry to interrupt you. What happened was, as you all know, I've been sick for about a month and a half now, and we haven't done an episode since we did Ghostbusters, and the Ghostbusters episode was delayed because I was sick as well. Yeah. So we didn't get a chance to do a Christmas episode. My excuse was going to be, if we would have done this a couple of weeks earlier, was that there's snow in it, therefore this is the Christmas episode.
So I don't have a lot here that we haven't already said about the VFX, but there's some stuff that's pretty cool. The effects do you know how they did the brides? Are you aware of what they did there?
Specifically
when they're flying
mocap.
So
or
that's the
head
thing.
replacement.
It's head replacement. It's
okay.
They put the girls in makeup. And they shot them on like
got them to say horrible lines in terrible accents.
Well, the script is rubbish. We'll put it aside, all right? We're talking about the VFX. For God,
love to. Okay.
Mr. Hyde is mocap, which is really cool. And some voiceover work by Robbie Coltrane. Really cool.
Did he just do the voiceover work, or was he also in the mocap suit?
He wasn't in the mocap suit. He was in a voice recording booth.
Gotcha.
Although they seem to do some post-processing to his voice, which is not necessary if you watch the behind. Made it deeper, made it more animal-like. There's some really cool stuff going on in that opening sequence, the black and white one. My favorite VFX shot, I think, in the movie, is Dracula after he gets knocked into the fire by the monster. He comes out, and so it's a stuntman that's on fire. And they also shot a clean plate. They shot a plate with Richard Roxburgh in the costume, pretending that he's, And what they did was they replaced the stuntman. They composited the stuntman on fire with Richard Roxburgh and the CG sort of melted face thing, and have it turn into Richard Roxburgh's face. And I love that moment where he like pulls his lapels and he cool. Makes the fire go out like that. It's really cool.
I also like the bit with the lightning where you see the sort of the shadow of his like bat self on the side of his face. Brilliant. Yeah, I
like all the bits where he's like, this isn't a visual effect, but like where he's walking on walls and he's changing. Sort of like where he was over there and now he's over here, and that's really cool.
And I also love that over the top bit where he screams and grabs the cross.
Yeah,
and it burns.
That is also one of that whole scene where he's talking to him. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Brilliant.
I love the lisp.
Yeah.
But the thing is that talking about Richard Roxburgh for a second, is that he is the best thing in a few bad movies from the time, like Mission Impossible 2.
Do it.
I'm afraid he can't. I believe I broke his jaw. But yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And also in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, like he's he knows that he's in some hokey shit, and he's just enjoying himself.
He's doing a really good job.
Really chewing the scenery and hamming it up. Like, he's loving it. And you can see that he's loving it. Anyway, go on, VFX corner.
There's not a lot more to say. Like, there's a lot of VFX stuff that I like. I really like the werewolves. I don't like the werewolf effect at the end. I love that shot where the whole chase sequence on the with the horses and the carriage. Where they do that switcheroo, that's really cool. But like, I like how he jumps off the carriage.
Where they do that switcheroo.
Or he jumps off the carriage in slow motion and turns the guns around. And he like fires at the werewolf. I think that's really cool. So there's like some really cool stuff.
Those were the shots that got me excited in the trailer.
Yeah.
That scene where he slow motion dives with the guns that you just talked about. And the bit with the lightning on the side of his face that reveals his bat self, and there's a lot of that kind of the windmill exploding.
Yeah, there's like a scene replacement. Sort of they did like this thing where, that moment at the beginning on the windmill when the monster is holding Frankenstein and the camera sort of pans around him, and so they've got like a lot of things going on there. That it's just a very convincing shot, but it's a visual effect. Is that you've got the lightning in the back of his head, obviously, which is a visual effect, and then you've got the people down below, which it's not there. They're on a sound stage on a blue screen, and the people are.
But it helps when you take color out of the equation.
Yeah,
like the first the beginning sequence in black and white. I'm looking at it. I'm looking for the HDR, and obviously you can't see the HDR because it's not in color.
Mm-hmm.
But it really does hide the seams quite a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I often think that I don't think this is well known, that color grading definitely helps tie a visual effect into a scene. A lot better than how. Obviously, how you composite it and how you make the effect look, and the texturing, which we mentioned already, is very important. But I think that the black and white sort of flattening out of those colors is definitely very helpful to a lot of those effects there.
Right.
That also is why I really like that visual effect at the beginning, because you don't need all of the gore and the burnt flesh on his face like to look bloody and whatnot. It looks gross enough.
Yeah.
Just in that sort of black and white, look. So, yeah. Anyway, that's it for VFX Attic.
VFX Attic.
There was a lot of artistry that went into this movie, and you can see, in the 4K, in all of that resolution shows you all of the texture of the makeup and all of the work that ILM did on the it's ILM, right? Yeah, because I remember that he worked with ILM on Mummy and Mummy Returns. But like you see all of that, like all of that work that's gone into it, and it's it's not for nothing. I wouldn't say that it's like it's all rubbish and like dump it and whatever. But as I said, like that's my main problem with it is that it could have been so much better.
Yeah.
And
I'll give you that. So if you're a judge and you're putting this on trial, what's happening to it? Is it going to jail? Is it going to prison?
No, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. And I thought about this before
Community
coming here.
service.
Yeah. I thought about this coming here tonight. We'll give it 500 hours of community service and hope it sees the error of its ways.
Well, I mean, don't you think that by now it's sort of paid off its debt to society, having been sort of ridiculed and scapegoated by so many people? Shouldn't it just be sort of time served?
Are you questioning my decision, Councillor?
No.
Do you want to be held in contempt?
No, Judge. What the fuck are you going to do to me? I'm
I don't
only
know.
little.
Am I a lawyer or the judge?
I'm only little.
Well, maybe we should bring somebody in to be the judge next time.
Oh, God, she's listening to it now and she's going, I'll do it.
I'll do it. Yeah.
Go on, say hello.
Hi, Babs.
Oh, no, I was talking about Philippa.
Are you talking about Philippa? Philippa,
Yeah.
do you want to come in? No, well, but Babs could have done it as well. I was thinking that's
Babs would be like, werewolves? What are you talking about? I haven't seen this film, Jonathan.
Language, Jonathan. No, she doesn't do that. What are you talking about? No, Philippa, do you want to come in, Philippa? You want to be on Zoom and judge the next one? We didn't really do a lot of courtroom stuff this week.
We did opening statements.
We did opening statements, but I didn't object. And I didn't overrule.
I objected to one thing. I didn't say objection, but I objected to one thing.
Overruled.
There you go.
Sit down, counsellor. You're just going to sit there and eat cake now? Are you done? It's like complete... All the energy's been sapped out of you. It's all over.
It's good cake.
It's a good thing we came back to do a podcast after a month to do this.
It's good cake.
It's good cake?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll finish mine, so...
Yeah. It's just too rich for me.
Yeah. Too rich for you? Ready?
A little.
Okay.
It was very good though.
So
I agree with your verdict. Although I'm glad that when you watched it this time, you were able to concede that there were things to like about it.
I always knew that there were things to like about it. As I said in the opening, the pre-bit, as it were, that I was worried that I was going to enjoy it and that I wouldn't have anything bad to say about it. Well, I knew I would have some bad things to say about it, but I wouldn't be able to completely condemn it to death row.
Wow.
But because every time I sit down to watch this movie, I'm always thinking positively about it. I'm always thinking, I'm going to have fun with this. And I always get disappointed, and I always feel like, the movie's kind of working against me. It's going, you think you're going to enjoy yourself? No, well, here's something else to piss you off.
I still enjoyed myself. I think there's a massive stick up your butt that you need to take out.
A stick up my butt?
Yes, a stick up. Do not forget my butt.
I work out every day.
And reaping burns many calories.
I just like I don't think my opinions changed that much, but I mean I knew coming into this that it wasn't going to be Avengers level bad.
So to sum up, Jonny liked it, I won, everybody rejoice. Dun, 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 dun,
Why are you singing that? Why are you singing that? I just got that song out of my head. So the explanation here is that my son... Stop it. We could get sued, my son loves that song. That is, what's it called? Badam Badam?
You can call me Al.
You can call me Al. My son used to call it Badam Badam. And I played it once when he was sort of acting up, and I just I put it on, and then we were dancing around the kitchen, the three of us. Me, my wife, and my son. My little girl was too little at the time. And, so he got kind of addicted to that. Every time we'd be in the car, he would request that song, and I would hear it on a loop, day in and day out. And now Si's just put it back in my head after...
You're welcome.
Months
We'll see you all next
quiet.
week.
Do we know what we're doing next week?
Sorry, do you want to talk about that?
You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Do you want to do a positive one, or do you want to do one that's possibly bad?
Well, I think we should give a few days to let people go, oh, we want to hear what you think about this.
Please write to us on Facebook, Twitter, or whatever else.
And then we'll look at the list. You remember you made a list of movies, so we'll pick one off that.
Okay, great.
In the words of Richard, from Richard and Judy, welcome back. Welcome back.
All right then. Well, it's been great fun, and I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. Please join us again.
I don't. I couldn't give a shit. Enjoy it. Don't enjoy it. Well,
good cop, bad cop.
It's reverse psychology, Jonathan. You wouldn't understand.
All right, yeah. Don't do us any fucking favors.
Listen to this podcast.
You know what I mean? Don't listen.
It's beneath
right?
you. You know what? You wouldn't understand.
You know, just fuck off, all of you. Just go away.
Go home.
Go home.
Nobody wants you here. Just go home.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
What's our seat number? Sponsored by Icky Sticky Stuff.